A while ago, the folks at Chalk Ola in Miami reached out to me and asked me whether I would do a review on their new premium wet wipe markers, which are chalk based, hence the name Chalk Ola, and a fantastic array of some quite neon colours. You've got red, blue, green, orange, purple, pink, yellow, black, brown and white as well. So there's 10 markers in this pack. They're chalk ink, but they're designed for working on non-porous surface. So you can write on glass, on mirrors, on plastic, on anything that's non-porous. And then when you're done, you can just take a wet wipe and just wipe it off again. So it's perfect for, like I say, writing on windows, for shops, for menus, for that kind of application. You can also decorate mirrors, all kind of things for home decor. But I don't do that kind of thing. I wouldn't use these for my shop windows. I don't have a menu. I don't particularly like neon coloured decorated mirrors in my home. But I'm an art journaler. And I like doing mixed media. So what I wanted to know was whether or not these pens were any good for art journaling. So I've been waiting for a while to find the right time to try these pens out. And today's it. Because they're semi-opaque and they're very, very bright colours. So the excuse I was waiting for was the delivery of this. And mine's finally arrived. I've had this for about a week now, and I keep stroking it like this because I've been putting off using it because it's beautiful. It's in pristine condition, and I've just enjoyed just having it for about a week. But today I'm going to use it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to utilise the Chalk Ola pens in the Dylusions Black Journal. Now, I'm being very brave because I'm using an unknown quantity in an unknown quantity. So the following art journal page may turn out to be completely and utterly pants. But then again, it may turn out to be completely and utterly fantastic. The only way we're going to find out is if I just start playing. So that's what I'm going to do now. So I'm going to begin by preparing my page. I have an idea in my head about what I want to create with this black journal page, and with the neon colours of the Chalk Ola pens I've got a pretty clear picture in my brain as to what I want to achieve with them. So I'm just going to prepare the page with some decorator's masking tape and just create a kind of a shape. I'm actually going to create a cityscape shape with the masking tape before I do anything. So I have sped this up quite considerably because it did take me a little bit of time, but I'll be done in just a few seconds really. Now that my masking tape is down, I'm going to bring out the white Chalk Ola pen. I have already pre-prepped most of these pens, so I have brought the ink down through the nib, which is what you will need to do when you first buy the pens. You have to give them a good shake and then pump the nib so that the ink flows down through the cartilage of the nib before you can use them. It doesn't take long, and I'll do it a bit later on with the blue one, so you can see just exactly how long it takes, but it doesn't really take that long. So out comes the first stencil. This is the time travel stencil by the Crafters Workshop, and my first experiment is actually putting the pen through the stencil as it is. So I wanted to see whether or not you could use the pens with the stencils without any other materials or resources in play. As you can see, the ink coming from the nib is kind of fluid, so you do get a little bit of seepage underneath. It's not great, but it's not bad either. So on a scale of 1 to 10, I'd put it around about 5. So for the next part of the experiment, I'm going to use the orange pen, and this time I've brought out a cosmetic sponge. Now I'm just loading up the sponge with the chalk ink directly from the pen to see if this makes any difference. And I'm using the affirmation stencil from Dina Wakley. So as you can see, I'm getting better results loading up the chalk ink from the pen using a cosmetic sponge. So that seems to be working. So I'm going to do the same thing again just to make sure it's not a fluke with the pen. And this time I'm using the neon pink. As you can see, it seems to be the sponge applicator that is getting the best results with those pens rather than straight through the stencil without one. So I'm going to carry on now using some of the other colours using the same way. Now I hadn't brought down or prepped the green, so I've just gone ahead and done that. And this time I'm going to use one of the Tim Holtz Distress Foam. This is one of the original square ones, to see whether that has the same effect with that pen as the cosmetic sponge did. So the blending foam didn't kind of work in the same way that the cosmetic sponge did, but that may be because I'm just using it in my fingers and not actually using it with the tool. So it may be an idea to give it a try out with the blending tool, or put the foam on the blending tool. So I'm just having a look now to see whether or not it was the pen that didn't go through the stencil directly. So I'm just trying it again, and I'm still getting the same sort of bleeding, so I know not to do that one again. So I've taken the white pen back out again, so now the first layer of that white has dried. I wanted to see whether or not it would enhance it anymore if I did a second coat. So this is the red pen, and again I'm loading up a cosmetic sponge because I wanted to see whether or not the red would stand out in the same way as the pink and the orange and the yellow did. The green kind of was a little bit knocked back, but let me just see what the red's like. And as you can see, the red is virtually invisible. You can see it, but not very well at all. I'm going to try the blue pen next. Now I haven't pre-prepped this one, so you are going to see me prep it right the way from the beginning, and it is speeded up a little bit, but in total it took less than a minute to get the pen working from the bare. So there's nothing on that nib. I'm giving it a good shake. There is a ball bearing in there to break up all the pigment, and all I'm doing is pumping the nib, and you'll see that it does start coming out any second. As I seem to be getting the best results with the cosmetic sponge, once again I'm using a cosmetic sponge to put that through this Dylusions stencil. So I'm just breaking up some of that black area on the page and just adding in some movement with these lovely curvy arrows. And as you can see there, the blue isn't quite as vibrant as the yellow, the pink or the orange. It is kind of knocked back a little bit. Okay, so it's time to remove some of the masking tape, and as you can see, pulling the masking tape off, it is pulling some of the fibres from the page as well, so just be warned about that one. I've used the square blending tool, so now I'm going to try the round ink blending tool with the foam actually on the tool this time, to see whether that makes any difference in applying the pen ink through a stencil. So as you'll see, I'm going to bring out the TCW Mini Cubist stencil and apply that through the stencil with that foam. So it's not too bad, you don't get too bad an effect from that. And as I start to remove the masking tape from the next lot, I also tear the page. So it actually rips one of the layers of the paper off the page. So my masking tape's obviously a bit too high tack. So just be careful. So after that kind of little mini disaster, I decided to pull down the masking tape. So I'm taking it from the top and pulling it down the page to make sure that I don't do the same thing again. So I'm going to carry on with the white, adding the colour through the Mini Cubist stencil to give the impression of windows in my buildings, and I'm going to just cover the whole of that bottom section with the white, and then we'll move on to our next step. So I want to break up the block of the buildings at the front just to give it a little bit of dimension. So I'm just going to bring in a ruler, or a rule, and I'm just going to use the pen directly onto the page with the rule. So I'm just going to add some lines, dividing my buildings up, and then I decide that I want a little bit more ink, make it a little bit more splotchy. So I'm just loading up the nib every time that I do it, just to give it a little bit more depth and dimension. So my next thought while looking at the page is that I need something to break up all the colour blocks. So I need something like white splatters that's going to just kind of break up and diffuse the stark colours. So I decided to bring up one of my range of texture tools, and all I'm going to do is just load up the edge. You could use a debit card or a credit card for this, or just a piece of the normal card, and it will work just as well. So I'm just going to add in some lines. Now I'm just drawing the pen directly on the edge of the piece of plastic. So that's all I'm doing. And I'm not actually alone today in my new craft room. I have been joined by Bentley, who's keeping me company while I'm crafting. So I'm just carrying on adding in those white lines where I think it needs to be broken up, the blocks of the windows, and also just to give some kind of industrial kind of city feel to those blocks at the bottom. Now that I've added on all the white lines, I think it looks far too white and there's no colour at the bottom, so I need to balance the bottom of the page up with the top. So I'm bringing back out the yellow and a new cosmetic sponge, and I'm going to load up the cosmetic sponge with the yellow ink, and then I'm going to use the same Mini Cubist stencil that I used before and add some yellow into the windows of the buildings. I'm just going to load the sponge back up again, not because it's dried, but just because I wanted to maintain that kind of same colour intensity on the sponge. So as you're laying the colour down, it does kind of start to get a little bit duller as you're working with it. So I just wanted to add a bit more colour. Okay, before I move on to the next stage, I just want to clear the ink off my craft mat on the right hand side. So I'm just going to grab a a dry towel this time. I'm just going to wipe off the ink. It did actually dry, but it does wipe straight off as they were intended to do because it's a non-porous surface. Okay, so no page is complete without a quote or a slogan, so I'm just going to use a Sharpie extra fine poster paint pen, and I'm just going to write my little quote, my little slogan for this page, which is "This city never sleeps." And I'm calling this page done. So there you go. I hope this is in focus. The camera is on a little bit of difficulty with the black background, which I didn't really anticipate. So I'm really hoping that the video has come out okay. So as you can see, all dry and none of it's coming up on my fingers either. So although it's chalk, it seems to be permanent. So there is no residue coming off my fingers. So there you go. Colours are great. As you can see, the yellow, the pink and the orange are very vibrant. The white is semi-opaque, you know, it's not perfect. The blue turns a kind of slaty colour. The only colour that really hasn't come out very well is the red. Now there are 3 places where I put the red in and you can barely see it. Only just here and here and here. But apart from that, I think the Chalk Ola pens are seriously it's worthwhile grabbing yourself a set if you can, because you know they work in your journals too, so they're not just for writing on glass. Now I just want to say that I wasn't paid to do this review. They sent me the pens for free, with no obligations at all to actually say whether they were good or not. It was basically, if I want to use them, it's up to me. If I don't like them, don't bother. So, which I thought was quite good. But as it is, I do quite like them. They're very nice. So there you go. That's the Chalk Ola pens, and this is my new Dylusions journal. I hope you've enjoyed watching me explore what they can do in this art journal. And if you've enjoyed the video, please remember to give it a thumbs up so YouTube know that you want to see more from me, and they will also recommend my channel to other people. And if you haven't subscribed to my YouTube channel already, you can do so by clicking the button at the end of the video, and you'll be treated to more exploratory art journal pages like this one. That's all for me. See you all soon. Bye for now.